Leadership is about building capacity. In Hindi, we call it samarthya. And capacity building is everything because the more capacity we have, the better the leaders we are. Leaders deal with ambiguity that no one else can. So the higher the ambiguity and the higher the capacity, the better the leader we are. Autonomy and resources,
Mm.
trust direction.
Mm.
टीम वीएस आगे से सितारों के आगे जहां और भी है aspiration that I went beyond that visiting art. So that was the thing which was driving me. And secondly, I was told and given to understand that entrepreneurship is not only a journey outside, it is a journey inside. It helps you solidify your own thoughts, your own capabilities and capacities that you explore with. So it was a spiritual inside journey, not a journey of matter only. So these were the two things which drove me. And after contemplating it for 2 to 3 years, I decided to call it a day and started my journey, which began with early days and especially with PeopleStrong. See, if you look at, I've put my hands in multiple projects and initiatives and ventures, and I feel very lucky. So because the first question that you asked, that what excites me is that the smartest of the people that I get to meet, entrepreneurs, are thinking 10 steps ahead of anyone else. And if you look at out of those entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs who are building categories, that inspires me the most. Right, new category building is the work which is done by entrepreneurs, is my firm belief. Be it a mobile phone that you hold in your hand, be it a building, be it a car, be it electricity at your home, everything that we do in life is being built by some entrepreneurial vision or dream. So those category building entrepreneurs are defining the world, and I get to meet some of the finest of them. So that's what keeps me very, very excited. What keeps me up at night is actually two things. One is the geopolitical world that we all live in. It is so uncertain. There is so much of chaos all around us. I'm sure it has been always there. But the context that we live in Bharat, is surrounded by countries sometimes which are not the most pleasant ones for our country. When I see the overall geopolitical stuff, it is going to impact everything. So that keeps me up, that keeps me worried because it has changed our fabric a lot. Uh, at the same time, I also worry how AI will be used or applied, not so much in the business world, but when it will be applied and used for not fair needs. It has the capacity to disrupt, hopefully for the better. But if it starts disrupting the original way of life, it has already taken over our mind. I'm sure it cannot take away our spirit. So I'm not afraid of it, but I'm definitely worried about what is it holding in the future, and especially for the next generation. This question I have contemplated many times, and I always go back to my favorite book, which is a conversation on the battlefield between the prince and the charioteer. And the conversation has many profound thoughts, series. But I think the one that I would like to remind to my younger self is that, Pankaj, remember, your body is driven by your senses, and your senses are driven by your mind, and your mind is driven by your intellect, and your intellect should be driven by your soul. That's the hierarchy. Um, but unfortunately, we try to do the reverse. We try to control the senses through the body, which never happens. We try to control our mind through our senses. So mind becomes the subservient of my senses. And we try to manage the intellect through mind. And intellect tries to control my soul or disconnect with it. So as we call it in Hindi, it's ulti ganga behna. So I would like to remind Pankaj and his younger self that let soul or spirit be your true guide, which is your highest authentic self, and try and learn how to connect with that better and deeper. That's my advice to my own self. That's my advice to anyone else who comes and asks me. It seems simple, sounds simple, but when this advice was given on the battlefield, I think we all should remember that we are so much driven by the senses in the world today, that we forget the original source or the reason why we exist. So that's my would be advice to myself. So I would look at it in few separate buckets. One would be understanding that technology in its traditional sense is dead. There's artificial intelligence, which is using itself in ways that we cannot even imagine and fathom. So probably the newest world that we are about to witness is already here, right? So that's one thing that we all have to become comfortable with. whether we are in civil services, whether we are in public services, whether we are in private sector, whether we are in armed forces, everyone and anyone has to learn this. Student or a teacher, professor, or a college buddy. Everyone has to understand. That's the one biggest thing that we all should be worried and understanding. Second, at an institutional level, at an organizational level, cybersecurity will be the biggest thing in the future, right? The success of organizations, homes, communities, unless you are off the grid, which is very unlikely, will depend on how cyber secured you are. So that's the second part. And third is our mental strength, which will be derived, I would like to believe, from the ancient wisdom that lies especially in a country like India, where we have so much available to us to stand tall, to stand strong on. And unfortunately, that wisdom, that knowledge is a bit out of fashion. Hence, it is not seen in the corporate world. But I would encourage, like everyone else, to please make sure that they become a part of our mainstream life. It gives us roots that we need. It has nothing to do with religion. It is the true Bharat. It is because of it we are what we are today. So let's be very proud and happy and leverage it, especially for youngsters. So that's my third take. I spoke firstly about AI skills in this digital era. I spoke about cybersecurity at a country institutional level. I'm talking about connecting back to the original source of information as the third thing, which should not be seen as a religion and get discarded. And fourth, I will say our capacity to make sure that we are able to aggregate, which is more like leadership skill. How can we aggregate? Can we aggregate machines and people? Can we aggregate artists and scientists together? Can we make sure that our laboratories don't have just one kind of people? It has diverse people who are working in those labs to create the future or the work of tomorrow. So that's the fourth skill or a cohort, I would say. These four probably the most important things that will work. I think a lot is being written on this, a lot is being discussed, researched, this whole terminology. But I think the one most welcome change that I see the younger generation, Gen Z, is far more equal in its approach. It doesn't matter to them what status you come from, what religion you come from, what kind of personal preferences you have. So there is a huge level of acceptance and comfort that my generation did not have. So that's the biggest change that I see, and it's a welcome change. I so many times are being reminded by younger people around me that hey, your words were not appropriate. You probably use the word manpower. Stop using the man sexist word. Use the word workforce. Don't call people chairman. That's not the right way to address. So I think those kind of things which were ingrained in our generation, when I see that the next generation is so sensitive about those facts, they are far more equal, far more inclusive. That's what helps me feel that the future is bright. At the same time, I sometimes worry about the mental tenacity that I see in the newer generation, which is not as strong as it was in the previous generations. And I still don't know why is it so. Is it because of an overexposure to the digital world that has made them little less social than we were? I don't have an answer to that, but that's one thing that I worry about, and one thing that I get inspired by. I think a lot is being written on this, a lot is being discussed, researched, this whole terminology. But I think the one most welcome change that I see the younger generation, Gen Z, is far more equal in its approach. It doesn't matter to them what status you come from, what religion you come from, what kind of personal preferences you have. So there is a huge level of acceptance and comfort that my generation did not have. So that's the biggest change that I see, and it's a welcome change. I so many times are being reminded by younger people around me that hey, your words were not appropriate. You probably use the word manpower. So this is the question that I think and contemplate most about. And I use only one word, which is the word called digital public infrastructure or open trust networks. What it means that we need to create what UPI did to India when it comes to financial transactions, what Aadhaar did to India when it comes to identity of Bharat. We need to do much, many more solutions. I have tried and experienced in KarmYogi Bharat, which is like a civil servants platform for capacity building, probably the largest in the world today. And all these have been possible because there is an open trust network running at the back of it. There are protocols which are open. So the new world of tech, I would love to see, which is going to help not only the developed nations, but the developing world. What we have witnessed in India is nothing short of magic. Even America cannot compete when it comes to the digital public infrastructure. That's India's USP. We are way and miles ahead of others. Now, this needs to be replicated in the countries which are coming up, which are developing. We need to replicate these systems in those countries because these systems bring in transparency. These systems run on trust. They bring on efficiency based which you can improve the average citizen's life. So I gave many examples for it. So that's one basic thing. I want to see the new digital public infrastructure coming up. Second, I would love to see a focus on jobs, not only by the government, because it has become a political issue. But the real problem is economic. It has nothing to do with politics. And this jobs issue can only be solved if all the entrepreneurs, the whole society, gets together and start thinking that creating jobs is our single most important activity, creating work for people. Like I have told my fund, Carat Capital, that we will help and enable 10 million jobs. Of course, I have to return IRR to my investors because I'm a venture capital fund. But at the same time, the North Star for us is creating 10 million jobs or reducing 10 million metric ton of carbon footprint, CO2. So if we can do things which can create this work, these jobs, a lot of problems that we see in a country like India where the population is huge will reduce on its own. I already see government trying to take steps, but every time government do something, it becomes political and the ideas get shot down. So therefore, it's our responsibility. That's my second take when I look at the India economic situation. And thirdly, there are so many institutions and individuals which are enabling this. Look at the work being done by Nandan Nilekani and his team. I would love all of us to join such initiatives. Whoever are the blessed ones have more privileged, are more privileged, must support such initiatives. Like what we have seen earlier, probably these networks will help us in finding our future. And I guess the whole developing world and the global south is looking at India for its future direction. So I think that's what we owe it to the world. Therefore, these three things, I repeat, I spoke about digital public infrastructures, I spoke about jobs, and I spoke about the people who are doing this work. How do we enable and help them? This is how I look at it, and I'm most geeked about it.